Welcome to The Explainer. When we think about sports, our minds usually jump straight to the physical stuff, right? We picture running, jumping, scoring, sweating it out. We think about training hard, the thrill of winning, the sting of losing. But today, we're going to look at sport through a totally different lens. Because the truth is, sport is far more than just physical activity. It's this incredibly complex, profound social space where our personal identities, our sense of belonging, and the actual fabric of our society all crash into each other. If you're ready to look at every game, match, and race in a completely new way, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it.
Here is the roadmap for today's explainer. 1. More than a game. 2. Shaping who we are. 3. The power of we. 4. When sport leaves people out. 5. A mirror of society. And finally, number 6. Practicing a better world.
All right, let's kick things off with section 1, more than a game, beyond physical activity. So let's shift our perspective for a second, away from the physical field and toward the social environment. Sport is fundamentally a social space. It's a dedicated arena where people meet up, interact, cooperate, compete, and genuinely learn about one another. Honestly, you can sometimes learn more about a person's true character in an hour of passing a ball than you can in a whole year of polite small talk. In this specific environment, people can feel incredibly proud, super confident, and deeply connected to the people around them. But we have to recognize the flip side. It can just as easily be a place where people feel judged, excluded, or even entirely invisible. It's literally never just a game.
Take a second and really think about your own experiences. Maybe you played on a local rec team, or maybe you're a diehard fan who cheers from the stands with your family. Can you remember a specific sport experience where you felt like you truly belonged? What was the secret sauce that made it meaningful? Was it the shared effort, an amazing coach, or just feeling totally accepted by your peers? Keep that memory in the back of your mind as we explore how these environments are actually built.
Moving right along to section 2, shaping who we are, looking at sport and identity. Let's look at how playing a sport actually tackles that massive, profound question of, who am I? Sport becomes this powerful pillar of our personal identity, and it often acts as an incredible tool for discovering our own strengths. A kid who might be super shy in a classroom can suddenly discover deep inner confidence and courage the second they step on a field. They find real connection. But sport can also create intense pressure around identity. People might feel like they have to look a certain way, act a certain way, or perform at an elite level just to be accepted. They get pressured to fit this very rigid mold of what a real athlete is supposed to be.
But think about the real-world impact when people actually challenge those pressures. In a lot of places, girls are still told that football is a boys' sport. Yet millions of young women just keep playing, competing, and thriving, completely shattering those gender stereotypes every single time they step on the pitch. Or think about a young athlete in a wheelchair who might be indirectly told that sport just isn't designed for them. When inclusive programs adapt and actually remove those physical barriers, those athletes prove that sport is absolutely for everyone. When we break the mold, participation and confidence just skyrocket. So let me ask you about your own local community. Does the sport environment that you know allow people to just be themselves? Or does it pressure everyone to fit into the exact same cookie-cutter image? A truly healthy sporting environment helps people figure out who they are, while simultaneously respecting exactly who everyone else is. Which brings us nicely to section 3, the power of we, focusing on sport and belonging. That shared respect we just talked about naturally takes us from the individual I to the collective group. And belonging is, well, it's incredibly powerful. At its core, it simply means feeling like, yes, there is a place for me here. Think about a team. Imagine a group of players who come from completely different cultural, religious, or social backgrounds. At first, they might carry assumptions or even a little fear about one another. But after months of sharing the same goals, learning each other's quirks, passing the ball, and relying on one another, those differences start to fade. The unified we of the team actually begins to replace that distant divide of us versus them. It's almost like magic. Now, what's really fascinating is that today, belonging happens in two totally different worlds. On one hand, we have the physical field, which is built on face-to-face trust and literally sweating it out together. But on the other hand, we have the digital environment. Think social media fan pages, team group chats, and massive gaming communities. And listen, these digital spaces carry the exact same power to create intense excitement, pride, and connection. However, they also require a ton of responsibility, because they can just as easily become toxic spaces where people spread stereotypes or shut others out. And that flip side brings us to section 4, when sport leaves people out, and the stark reality of exclusion. Because sport has this incredible power to bind a group together, we kind of fall into the trap of assuming that sport is just naturally, automatically inclusive. Spoiler alert, it is not. Sport only becomes an inclusive space when we intentionally design it to be that way. Basically, there are two types of exclusion. Visible barriers are the easy ones to spot. Maybe there is a lack of accessible facilities for people with disabilities, or club fees are way too expensive for lower-income families, or there's just no public transport to the game. But the crucial point here is that invisible barriers are just as harmful, if not worse. We're talking about a joke about someone's accent, assumptions based on a stereotype, the silent judgment of a player's body type, or that simple, awful feeling of being chosen last every single time. Exclusion isn't always an official rule. A lot of times it's just a small, quiet message telling someone, hey, this space isn't for you. So, have you ever personally seen someone get left out of a sport activity? What exactly happened? And more importantly, how could that situation have been handled differently? Because it turns out really small, intentional actions, like just taking the time to learn someone's name, or stepping in to shut down a hurtful joke, or tweaking the rules to give everyone a role, can completely reverse that pain. It tells someone, you know what? You do belong here.
This leads us right into Section 5, a mirror of society, reflecting our values and inequalities.
The way we handle those moments of exclusion actually tells us a lot about our broader culture. There's this foundational quote, "Sport does not exist outside society, it is part of society." Sport acts like a highly visible laboratory. I mean, if a society is heavily struggling with sexism, racism, poverty, or social distance when it comes to migrants and refugees, those exact same issues are unavoidably going to show up on the field. Sport is a magnifying glass. It shows us exactly who holds the power, who gets the resources, who gets celebrated, and who gets completely ignored in our broader culture.
But hey, here is the really hopeful part. If sport reflects society, it means it can also help society change. Because it's a visible laboratory, we can actually spot problems and do something about them. Let's walk through a super concrete coaching example. Imagine a coach notices that the same two star players are totally dominating the ball while everyone else is just standing around. So the coach steps in and introduces a simple rule. Everyone on the team has to touch the ball before anyone is allowed to score. And boom, watch the participation balance out immediately. By changing just one single, simple rule in our mirror, we teach this profound lesson about shared responsibility and fairness.
So try using sport as your own personal diagnostic tool. What does sport reveal about the society where you live right now? Who easily gets the opportunity to play, and who faces these towering barriers just to access the field? When you start looking at sport carefully, you really start to see the hidden patterns of your own community's social and economic dynamics. All right, our final stop, Section 6, practicing a better world through inclusion and dialogue. Once we spot those hidden patterns, we can actually do something about it. We can intentionally use the mini world of sport to practice the kind of society we actually want to build. Just look at these critical life skills that intentional sport builds. It demands communication, because players literally have to share information to win. It builds cooperation, since no one can win the whole thing entirely alone. It fosters a deep respect for rules and fairness. It teaches empathy, training you to actually notice what your teammates need. It gives you a real-time crash course in conflict management, because let's face it, disagreements happen in every group. And ultimately, it instills shared responsibility. Guys, these are peace-building skills, and they translate directly from the playing field right into our families, our schools, and our workplaces.
Now, let's be real for a second. Just throwing a bunch of people onto a field together isn't a magic wand that removes stereotypes or creates world peace. It requires really careful reflection and intentional design. The activity shouldn't just reward the fastest or the strongest. It has to create different ways for absolutely everyone to contribute. When done right, sport creates powerful beginnings. A first conversation, a first shared goal, a first moment of real trust. It acts as a bridge to dialogue, opening the door to deeper understanding. And that is a massive topic that we are going to be exploring in much greater detail in future explainers. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to carry with you. From now on, whenever you sit down to watch a game or step onto a field yourself, I want you to look closely. Ask yourself, who feels included here? Who is being left out? And most importantly, what could change? Sport is truly more than just a game. It's a space where our society is reflected and where incredible, lasting change can actually begin. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep asking those critical questions.